Up, beautiful jellyfish, it's Tracy. Thank you so much for taking a little bit of time today to hang out with me. I really appreciate it. And in today's video, we're going to be chatting about EDH updates. I have so many awesome things to talk to you guys about, and I'm so excited. I have not one, not two, but three new commander projects that I'm going to tell you about. But that's not anything. It's none of what we're going to talk about. We're talking about some couple of tweaks and all that kind of jazz. So, and a project that I took apart. So let's just kind of start there. Y'all, I took zombies apart, and I feel like if you have seen me play my commander decks and all that sort of stuff, you might not be surprised about the decision because that was just the deck that I reached for the least. And my problem ultimately was the consistency, or really just the lack thereof. And I think zombies' really cool edge was that they were hard to kill, right? Because you have Machias and you also have like a lot of other recursion in the deck or whatever, but I just feel like the deck didn't do anything. And I feel like whenever I was in the mood to play like a tribal deck, for example, that's not the deck that I just wanted to pick up. I was going to pick up either Angels or Alila. And one thing I really like about Alila, and it's so funny because I've had a couple of you who commented who have Alila and you love that commander deck, and I'm totally right there with you. I love the variance that Alila provides because you might just have like 3 tokens, but they happen to be like 4 3s or something like that. Or you might have like 12 tokens, but they all just are like 2 1s or something like that. So anyways, the point still stands. I feel like I like those variants in those tribal decks better, and I think I'd be really hesitant to build a new tribal deck if I ever were to do something like that. So yeah, unfortunately, tribal in that instance is just not really for me. And honestly, even too, Alila is really different because Angels is just like pumping out these big angels and accelerating my mana and things like that. But Alila is triggering off of artifacts and enchantments. So I'm getting those tokens and I'm also buffing those tokens. And we'll talk a little bit more about tokens in a little bit. But yeah, I took apart zombies. It just wasn't meant to be. It wasn't my thing. And it's funny because I actually had taken apart Merfolk I don't even know how long ago. And I remember saying the reason I had to play Merfolk is because I was always picking zombies over that. And now I don't have either. But it's okay. You know, it is what it is. We come and we go through sometimes through commander decks, and I feel like I was just never a deck that I was just really personally excited to play. And it just had, the highs were really high in that deck, but the lows were really low. And I don't like that. I want something that's going to be like pretty consistent. And I feel like that's something I'm really prideful of whenever I build a commander deck, because I just try really hard to make it, you know, I try to have all the pieces. Like I feel like I'm very formulaic. I don't feel like is like necessarily the right word that I'm looking for, but I try to make sure that my commander decks have like the mana acceleration that they need, have the curve in a specific way and things like that. And I feel like when my decks just don't perform in that way, when they're like, when I'm constantly just not drawing the cards that I need, I don't really know if I'm making a lot of sense right now, but it wasn't the vibe, guys. So anyways, I ended up parting with those cards, and they're in a much better home, which I'm really excited about. So the cards are in a much better home. They are for my friend. It's Koji. I'm sorry. He told me that his name is Kyoji. It's not, you know, when you're just like in the habit of calling someone something and someone's like, this is actually how it's pronounced. And you're like, no. It's like when you're reading a fantasy book and then the character's name and you're just like, Ajda. And then like someone's like, okay, it's actually like this. And you're like, no, it's Ajda, because it's how you say it in your head. That's how it is. Anyways, those cards are in good hands. I sent them over to him. So anyways, so his wife can have them, and there you go. They can enjoy the zombies. So, okay, that is that project away. That's in the commander graveyard. That's pretty funny, because zombies graveyard. Okay, anyways, okay, let's talk about a couple of tweaks before we talk about the other projects. So I have been undergoing a couple of changes in my decks, and I think and I don't know if this is going to make sense, and I don't know if you guys are like this too, but do you ever know when there's cards that you kind of have like an attachment to, or you really enjoy, or you've played with them for so long, and you realize that it's just not that good? Does anybody else feel that? That was kind of how I was feeling with a couple of cards. And I think sometimes too, when I feel like I'm taking cards out or exchanging them, it's not because I don't think that a card is really good. And sometimes there are times where I'm just like, I don't like this card. I don't want to play with this card anymore. And then there are other times where I'm like, I need a slot. What do I take out, kind of thing. And then there are cards that you just like move away from and all that sort of stuff. And I think I was just running into a couple of like tweaks that I really wanted to make to like Tasigur. I wanted to like undergo a couple of just a couple of changes, not anything like very massive, because Tasigur's been fully foiled for like forever, and I just kind of wanted to like tweak just a couple of cards. So you'll be seeing in a haul upcoming a couple of cards that I get for that just tweak that deck a little bit. And then the bigger, I would say, project of things that I was tweaking was Reen. And I love Reen. Reen is like probably my most aggressive deck. It's pretty different, I would say, from a lot of my other decks because it's really, really punch hard. And my commander strategy, and my personal favorite commander strategy for the most part, is I'm just going to sit back, I'm just going to chill, appear non-threatening, draw a card here or there, maybe counter a thing, maybe kill a thing, maybe board wipe a thing, and then all of a sudden become a problem. That's personally my favorite strategy. Why am I able to get away with that, you might ask? I don't know. You think my friends would learn that at this point. Tracy needs to be stopped. They're like, nah, she just played like Wood Elves. Like, what's the problem here? It's like everything's the problem, actually. Anyone else in that same boat? So I get away with way too much. It's actually ridiculous. So basically, I was with Reen, it's because of my most aggressive deck. I just kind of noticed, though, that I was getting bogged down with a lot of like instants, sorceries, artifacts, enchantments, things like that, and I just wasn't having enough like punch, and the point of Reen is to punch really hard, and I just kind of wanted to tweak it up. I changed the curve a little bit too, so I actually lowered the curve, which we love. When the curve gets lower, it's always a great day, right? And then a couple of the cards I added were like mana acceleration cards, so I actually ended up changing probably like maybe 8 to 10 cards in Reen, which to me is a huge deal, right? Like that's like a 10th of my deck. That's super awesome. So I'm super excited about that. So Reen has a couple of changes. I feel like, I don't remember the last time I did a Reen deck tech, but I feel like it was in 2022. So it's definitely going to be a little bit of time before I do an update. I might have even done it earlier this year. Honestly, guys, I can't keep track. I usually like to do my deck techs every 2 years, just give myself enough time to like get new cards for it or get foils or things like that. But anyways, I'm really excited. Also too, I never want to jump too early to film a deck tech, and I'll talk about my next project in a little bit and about why I'm not filming the deck tech just quite yet. But I never like to jump into that too early because I want to feel really consistent and really sound about how I feel about the deck. I don't want to be like, yeah, like this is the deck and I'm planning on changing like even like 5 cards. Like I don't want that to be the case. You know, I want to have a really solid foundation, because if you're going to be watching one of those deck techs and you're interested in building this, I don't want it to be like cards that I don't really love or I don't feel particularly like a strong way about or I don't like. I don't want that to be the case when I film that. So I'm very hesitant. Like I'll talk about a deck for like a year before I do that. Like my Riku deck tech, I just had one day, it was like, I'm just going to film it because I had been talking about it so much. So people were like, please film me a Riku deck tech. And I was like, okay. So anyways, so I'm really excited about the changes to Reen. I think it's going to be really awesome. I think you guys are going to really like it. So I'm really excited, and it just adds that bit of aggression. And tying along with that, guys, I'm so excited about my Queen Marchesa project. I think you guys are going to love this deck, and I'm so incredibly excited. What makes my build slightly different from a lot of other Marchesa builds is I am going for a true thematic deck, rather than necessarily the cards that are the best for the deck. So pretty much, I'm running a card, for example, like a race, and I'll be showing you guys the picture here because it's got like the little like castle art or whatever. I'm running cards like this. Are there better cards than a race? Perhaps there are. I wouldn't run this in any of my other decks, but it's on theme, and that's why it's important. So some of my friends sometimes, I'm also running like Trapped in a Tower, which by the way, guys, this card's hilarious. I love Trapped in a Tower, and I always like build it up too. Whenever I cast it, I'm just like, ah, very nice commander, and now your commander is trapped in a tower, and it's super fun. I always get so much satisfaction whenever I get to cast that card. But anyways, so I'm able to run cards that are more on theme rather than necessarily the best. And so it's actually been, to be real with you guys, it's actually been quite a challenge because I'm trying to make the deck still good. And it's so funny because a lot of my friends are like, this deck is actually really strong and they really like it, but it's just it's missing a little bit of like oomph and a little bit of power. One thing I've also really enjoyed, and if you've never played a commander game or many games with the Monarch, what I really like about it is it actually speeds the game up. And I don't mean speeds the game up in like a really not good way. I actually think it adds a really nice pace to a commander game. We've all been in situations before the game has just gone on too long. One thing I really enjoy about, I also feel this way about the goad mechanic too, where it makes it so the games are just slightly more aggressive, because we've all been in standstills in games before too, where it's like, oh, nobody's attacking, nobody's doing anything, because like we all kind of have like weird boards. People want the Monarch. They want to, as my friend Trav says, wear the hat, wear the fancy hat. They want to attack because they want to be the Monarch. What I really love about Marchesa is if I'm not the Monarch, that's okay, because then I get those assassin tokens, and guys, her assassin tokens are so good. They're just such a great blocker. They're a great attacker. It's super, super great. So with the changes that I've actually been making to Reen, a lot of the cards that I've been running have been like red-white cards. And so I've actually been making a couple of tweaks to this card to also have like red-white cards, mostly humans. So I'm going for a little bit of like a human, when I say a human tribe, I don't want it to be like every card is a human, because that's definitely not the case. Not every card is a human in the deck. A lot of them are, but I also have like a dragon thrown in there, because my thought is like, okay, well, like there's the Marchesa's dragon who like protects the court. I'm also thinking about throwing an angel in there. I was thinking Aurelia. Paul really wants me to run Gisela. I just really like Aurelia a lot. I like Gisela and I like Aurelia. I have both of them in Reen. But I don't think I want both of them in here, because my thought was like, I just want one. I just want like one to be like the commanding angel. And also it's Aurelia the war leader. And I figured like that's very thematic. Come on. So I've actually been running quite a bit of similar cards in both of the decks, and I've kind of been trying them out, or like I'll purchase one and then I'm like, oh my gosh, that's a human knight. That's super perfect. So I then go and throw it in there. But it has been a little bit challenging, like I said, to find cards, because what I'm doing is a lot more like niche and a lot more specific. And so a lot of times if you look up Reen builds, they're just kind of like good quality like Mardu cards, which is totally fair. And I think if I was maxing this deck out to be better, but I'm just having so much fun with my theme, and I just personally really love it. Like I think if you just like take Commander too seriously, like you won't necessarily appreciate that. But like if you're like, oh, like that's super fun, like Paul's a pirate deck and he is like the same way. He's like, I could be running these cards that are better, but like theme. And I was like, yeah, theme just trumps all. So anyways, I'm having a ton of fun with that. However, I have not had a deck tech on this, and I think I built this project in perhaps the summer, but I think it might have even been before the summer. And the reason is because I have been making and undergoing so many tweaks. And so back to what I was saying earlier, I don't want to film this deck tech because I don't feel comfortable right now, because I've just had a lot of changes, but I'm getting to the point where slots are tight, which is awesome. And that's like one of my favorite feelings, because I'm like, it's a weird feeling to me. It's like, I love it when spots are like that, but I also am like, okay, this is really hard to like take cards out. I'm like, what do I do? So my goal is to have that out probably at like the end of the year. That's what I was thinking. I always like to do kind of like a fun, like around Christmas, like to do kind of like a deck tech or something like that. Like I think last year I did my Riku deck tech, maybe it was 2 years ago. But anyways, I might do that. So that's kind of like my goal, end of year. We'll see how that happens. So that is Queen Marchesa. Oh, you guys are gonna love it. I'm so excited for you guys to see it. I think it's gonna be so fun. And I'm also like really interested too to be like, oh my gosh, like Tracy, this one random like card from like Legends, like you need this, like one obscure royalty card, you know what I mean? And here's the thing is like, where I do want it to be thematic, I also do want it to be good, you know? We're going for like, you know, that. Okay, so then we have 3 commander projects, and I think I've already talked about this, and I really don't have any updates in terms of like if I've started collecting cards for it or anything like that. Like I haven't even pulled out cards from my box or like really anything like that. But I talked about Aragorn the Uniter. I believe I talked about this was this in Lord of the Rings? Yes, I talked about this in my Lord of the Rings set overview, which by the way, guys, I have found so many cards from this set. I think this Lord of the Rings set was so incredibly cool. There were so many awesome things that I found with there. Anyways, so I am going to be building this. I don't have a timeline, and I don't have a like when I'm going to be doing this, because I actually have another project that I'll talk about in a little bit, but I wanted to really briefly touch on it. It's going to be very similar to Reen in that it's going to be capitalizing off of multicolor stuff, but this is just going to be kind of like a silly thing. At least that's kind of my vision behind it now. I want to run cards like Unexpected Results, and I think just do like really fun things like that. So anyways, I think this commander is so incredibly cool. It's also 4-color, which I don't have any 4-color decks, so it would be really different for me, which I really like. And I just want to play a bunch of multicolor spells and just get a bunch of these triggers and just do that. I think it's just going to be super fun. I'm excited about it. I don't really have a lot of stuff to say about it because I don't necessarily know, but I'm excited. I think it's going to be a super fun project. So, okay. The next project, I can already feel someone to be like, do not do this. Okay, so this is a really silly story. Okay, so I have talked about how I want all of my lands in my commander decks to match. I'm kind of trying to get to this point. So I have a couple of projects that are like already done. I think I have about like 3, 4, I think I have about 4 projects that are all the lands match and everything is going to try to make them like theme as well. So like, for example, with Grand Arbiter, I think I got like Ravnica lands. They're very like city based and really pretty. Anyways, so I was trading with my friend Ruben, and one of the sets that I really love that I feel is very underhyped, and if you know me, my favorite set is Lorwyn. I also have a soft spot in my heart for Shadowmoor. I really like Shadowmoor a lot. I think the art is incredibly stunning, and I was trading with my friend Ruben a couple of weeks ago, and I ended up getting 2 of the Shadowmoor basics. I ended up getting a swamp and an island. One of them is in like French, I think. Maybe it's Italian. Spanish, I don't know. It's cool though. They're stunning. Purple's my favorite color, and they're just like sheer foil, and they're just stunning. And so I said to myself, I want to put these in a deck together and have kind of like a little like purple like color together. You know what I mean? Like I want to put them together. And so I was like, oh my gosh, I was like, why don't I build a black, because it didn't really fit, like, because then I was like thinking about it, I was like thinking for a Leela, I could put those for lands in a Leela, but then what would my planes be? You know what I'm saying? So I was thinking about it, and I was like, okay, but like what if I built a like Dimir like commander deck? Like that would be cool. I haven't had done that in a while. I had like Lazoth like a million years ago. It was like a really bad mill deck. We don't talk about that. Anyways, and then I was stumbling upon cards, and I discovered, and I forgot that this card existed, but I like discovered like Toxrill, and like, I don't know. I just think it would be really fun. And a part of me is just like, I feel like this is like a really bad idea, and I feel like I'll be getting so much hate. But here's the thing is also, it's like 7 mana. So to me, it's like, it would be, I feel like sometimes I build my decks too much around my commander, and this would be kind of just more like life drain and like things like that. I'd probably be taking a lot of the pieces that I had originally in Tesa, like a lot of the black pieces, and then putting them in there, and then I get like the bonus of running all like my fun blue stuff, and then maybe doing some fun like slugs and things like that. So I just thought that it would be a really fun project. I don't know, this is really up in the air. I just think it would be really silly, and then I could just do like mass destroy creatures and things like that, and just like life drain. And I have a couple of pieces for it. I haven't looked through any of my stuff, so I don't know. I just think it would be fun. I feel like my friends are not going to be happy. I feel like he's a very hated commander. You guys can like please correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel like he's aggressively targeted and aggressively hated. So I don't necessarily know if it would go over, but I don't really know who else I would do as a commander, because I looked at a couple of the other ones and I feel like they're not really necessarily fitting, I think. And I don't really have any ideas. Like I don't have any specific things that I'd be like, I don't want to do this, or I do want to do this. Like I wouldn't do a tribal deck. Like I would just say that right out. But anyways, this is a question mark. I don't know, but it's on the back burner. Like I traded for a, is that Planeswalker? Not a Planeswalker. What is that card called? Not Perforos. Erebos? I traded for one of the Ereboses, and I was like, this could be perfect in there. Sometimes I just trade for cards because they're foil and shiny and they're pretty, and that's just kind of like what I did. Okay, I don't know how this project came to fruition. This is happening. This is the next project that I'm building. I have not looked at really anything for this, but I am going to be building Queen Alenal. There will be a picture. She's stunning. Also, she'll be my 3rd queen deck because I have Silver Queen, Queen Martesa, and her. Are we noticing a pattern here? Okay, so my vision behind this, there's 2 thought processes behind this. In all of my different commander decks, none of my decks are centered around me punching somebody with my commander, with the exception of like Avacyn, because like Avacyn's an 8/8, and like if I swing 3 hits, you're dead. But also like if I've probably swung and have a board with Avacyn, you're probably dead in some other way. Like I have a lot of win conditions in Avacyn, so it's, you know, that sort of things. what's the land destruction card that's white? 4 mana? Destroy all lands? Yeah, I run that too. Anyways, so my thought process behind this was I just love tokens, guys. I love tokens. Now, I don't love tokens in the sense of I am someone who collects, like, okay, guys, like I make a 1/1 elf token. Let me look through all my tokens and make an elf, because do I have that kind of time? No. Also, most of the time those tokens don't come in foil, so it's not for me. So I have a little token box, and this was one of the most genius purchases, a $3 purchase, one of the best purchases of my life. Paul has done the same thing. He has a token box too. And it has all of my tokens. And I have like my food tokens, my monarch tokens, then I have these like the Disney princess tokens that I have that I get compliments on all the time that I love, that are from Inkling Customs. And then I have the new Dark Magician Girl token that I showed in my haul, which if you haven't seen that, you should, because I have a Dark Magician Girl token and she is awesome. Anyways, I love tokens. And I was like, I want to build a token deck, but different from Alila, because Alila is like buffing my tokens, and only like realistically when I play Alila, I only really have a handful. You know what I mean? I only have like 3, 4, 5, 6, and then they're whatever tokens, you know, power tokens, and then, you know, I kill somebody. I wanted to just swarm tokens. Like, that was my vision behind this. And so I just discovered her, and I was like, I think this would be so fun. And the second piece of it, and going back to like killing people with my commander, other than Avacyn and sometimes Alila, because I run like All That Glitters, but All That Glitters is also just like one card. And I've had comments from people being like, oh, you should run cranial plating and things like that in Alila. The thing is, I have a split between artifacts and enchantments, so I don't really favor one over the other. I also don't know what the math is on who I have more of. So it's one of those things where it's like, I don't want to base it all because I like to have the mix of them. And so my thought would be a little bit of Voltron, and that would be kind of like, I would kind of have like those two win cons. I would just have like a swarm army of tokens as my first, and my second would be like buffing her and running slight equipments. I don't want to be running like mass equipments, like every card is an equipment. I don't want to be running like 30 equipments or anything like that, but I want to be running a couple. That way I can give her things like trample and haste and like a little bit of protections and like things like that. Just a couple of cards that I was thinking of running for her. And then, like I said, just like mass tokens. I don't really want to run a lot of like buffs like I have in Alila. I'm probably going to throw in an Intangible Virtue because it's Intangible Virtue and it's a great card, but it's going to be token synergies for the win. And I am so excited. I just think, like I said, I love tokens, and if I can have an excuse to do that, I would just like to. Okay, I will admit that I am like an art lover, and there are some cards that I see that I'm like, I want to run that. And so one of the cards that when I saw this in Commander, was it Commander Masters? Yeah, Commander Masters was this little magic card, Arc. There'll be a picture here. Whatever. As soon as I saw this, I was like, I want to run this in something, but I don't know what. This would be like the perfect card to slot in this deck, and then I can run just like this absolute stunning art. So that was like my other thought too, so I was like, well, then I get to run this card and whatnot, and then run all these like mass token things. So anyways, really excited about that. I think it's gonna be really fun. This is my next commander project. I have not started to pull cards out. However, I was trading the other day, and I did get a couple of pieces for it. So that's super fun. I'm really excited about that. So guys, that is it for my commander updates. I know we had a lot of stuff to talk about. There was like a ton of things that I wanted to chat with you guys about, but I'd really like to know if you have any recommendations for any of these decks, anything that you're like, oh, you got to run this. I'd love to hear it. And if you have a new commander project, I would really love to hear that in a comment below. If you enjoyed this video, go ahead and give it a thumbs up. Subscribe to the channel if you're not already, and I'll catch you on the next one.